Today we're talking about one of my favorite marine scents, a fragrance that I've been wearing a lot this summer. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances and this is a practical review of Lorenzo Pazzaglia's Sex Sea. These reviews are for fragrances I have a lot of experience with, multiple wears in many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances these days, but I don't really like to go into details about notes and accords, as I don't really feel that it helps the end user. I'd rather talk about the wear experience as a whole. Today we're talking about another uber niche house, Lorenzo Pazzaglia. This one might be a little bit more well known compared to stuff like Francesca Bianchi and Tower, but to me at least, Lorenzo Pazzaglia really represents the true niche category. Lorenzo Pazzaglia is first and foremost a cook in an actual restaurant, a restaurant that is owned by his family. He still works there as a day job full time, and on the side, he developed his passion for perfumery and he started making perfumes again in his basement, common theme for niche perfumers. Then he started giving samples of at his restaurant. He found good traction, he got a lot of compliments on his scents, and one thing led to another and he started selling them. This is a common theme for Italian perfumers, especially the new ones. A lot of niche Italian perfumery comes seemingly out of nowhere, and these passionate people, sparked by creativity, just start putting stuff together and come out with amazing scents. And although I think that this approach is absolutely amazing because it's really creativity guided and without really bounds of marketing or pitches or anything like that, I have to say that there's something a little bit lacking in the perfumery that these niche houses offer. And this is due to the fact that most of these people are not trained perfumers and they don't have a tradition or a long-term experience in perfumery. I'm not saying that that is necessarily needed, but even for someone like Alessandro Gualtieri, which with all due respect, he is a true master perfumer, you get this kind of like hashed together feeling. And this is also true with Francesca Bianchi, and this is especially true with Lorenzo Pazzaglia. A lot of his fragrances are really chaotic, and although amazing and innovative, they do kind of smell just like put together in a basement, sort of. In stuff like this, you definitely do not get that French, elegant, refined approach from someone like Dominique Ropion or Bertrand de Chafour. You have to take these as they come. They are fun, creative, loud, wow-inducing. Will they have a lasting power throughout the years? I'm not really sure about that, but I guess we'll see what happens. So back to Lorenzo Pazzaglia and Sex Sea. What is Sex Sea? Sex Sea is a fragrance from his Sea line. He has, I think 4 to 5 fragrances in the Sea line. We have Sex Sea, his most famous one, which is Black Sea. Then there's Arctic Sea. And then there's, I think, a vanilla-based sea. And what's the other one? I can't remember. Anyway, Sex Sea is the one that's supposed to be vacation-like, the most vacation-like. So this fragrance has a lot of florals, a lot of citruses. It's very uplifting, very bright, very fresh, unisex, I would say, and by Lorenzo Pazzaglia standard, very long-lasting. All his fragrances are extrait de parfum and they're very potent, as per, again, a lot of these Italian niche perfumery houses. I actually got this at the same time I was basically looking for my staple summer fragrance. And that time was when I was recording the first impression of the Pacific Rock Moss from Goldfield & Banks versus the Boyce 1920 Oltremare. And immediately after recording that video, I got this in a trade from my favorite trader, Nat. Shout out to Nat. And I've been wearing it ever since. It basically just filled up my need for that summer fragrance I was looking for. And initially in my first impression review or first impression video about the Goldfield & Banks, I was really ecstatic about that scent profile. I found it simple, floral, refreshing, sort of marine hinting, and it was just beautiful. And I was about to pull the trigger on a full bottle when I just stumbled upon this. And this actually scratches that itch exactly. So this is basically, scent-wise, Pacific Rock Moss, but with longer longevity and a little bit more punch. But we're gonna get into the scent profile after the presentation. Speaking about presentation, Lorenzo Pazzaglia is quite unique. I feel that his bottles have this sort of made in the basement kind of appeal, specifically when it comes to the labeling, but they're actually really high quality and very unique. Starting from the cap, it's friction based, very tight, very secure, it's perfect. heavy. It's a heavy piece of metal that's polished, and it has this engraved owl logo from the Lorenzo Pazzaglia logo. I think it's really great. The bottle itself is this square, elegant bottle, really nicely painted, really smooth. I think it's really high quality. The labeling on here is the thing that kind of gives it away. And Lorenzo Pazzaglia is the kind of guy that has a very flashy, kind of not classy labeling, I would say. Take it or leave it for what it is. I guess I'm a marketing snob. But his labeling is a little bit all over the place. Some of his labels are clean, like a clean color if you look at Black Sea, but some others just look weird and kind of cheap. It looks like one of those Dua brand fragrances, kind of like a cheap clone house. Other than that, I really can't complain. The boxes are cool, and what's most important, the fragrances are actually amazing. The Lorenzo Pazzaglia fragrances come in these 50 ml bottles and a weird downsized 28 milliliter bottles. Those are cute and fun, especially if you want to have more than one, maybe more than one from the same collection, like the Sea collection. Those are actually really great. And given the fact that these are pretty potent, it will last you quite a bit. Let's get into the scent profile. I mentioned in the intro that I've been wearing this a lot. This is basically my go-to summer fragrance for this summer. As soon as I got it, I knew exactly what it was, and I knew exactly that I would like it. So back to my first impression video of the Goldfield and Banks versus the Bois 1920 Oltremare. Just to recap, I thought that those two were really good. They had the same kind of appeal, and this one still fits in that family. So it's a marine type scent, but not in your face marine. You're not on the beach, but you're next to the beach, maybe on some sort of a coastline with flowers, with citruses, but there's the sea in the background. And the Goldfield and Banks specifically never really gives you a marine note. Maybe there's a little bit of a hint of saltiness in the background, but the Bois 1920 brings you to the beach later down the road. That dose of ambroxan there really brings a lot of like salty muskiness to the back of the scent. And it's great if you want that sea vibe, that sticky, kind of salty post-beach vibe, which is great. But on the other hand, it's a little bit synthetic and a little bit grating. That ambroxan note is actually what makes the Bois 1920 last a lot longer than the Goldfield and Banks. Now, I wasn't bashing the Goldfield and Banks for the longevity because, again, the scent was simple, it was beautiful, and I just took it for what it is. Sex Sea by Lorenzo Pazzaglia is pretty much the best of both worlds because it's as fresh and as natural smelling as the Goldfield and Banks, but it has the longevity and the punch of the Bois 1920 without having that grating, synthetic, harsh ambroxan in the end. Yes, there is an ambroxan note in the end, even here, but it's just not as grating, piercing, and in your face. If you like ambroxan, you probably want to go with the Bois. If you don't like it and you want something that still has longevity, you probably want to go with this. I forgot to mention the atomizer in my presentation. Let's give it a spray so I can talk about the opening. Atomizer is pretty great, works well, definitely upper tier. I feel that it's really not hard to make a good atomizer, so anyone who doesn't really have an excuse. I've been wearing this scent throughout the day. Actually, I've been wearing it a lot this week because it's really hot here. But the opening of this is really beautiful. So you get kind of the Goldfield and Banks opening, very floral, very citrusy. There's a lot going on. It's a very complex opening. And if you look at the notes for this, it's kind of overwhelming. You get this like flood of notes, Roja style, like a million ingredients. But the main things I'm getting are sort of a tangy, fresh citruses. I think that there's a little bit of a grapefruit, maybe some lemon. It's a sweet type of citrus at the same time. I don't know if the sweetness comes from the florals or it comes from the citruses itself. There is some greenery in there, maybe some mint. I seem to remember from the notes that the one thing that stood out to me was the absinthe note. And I don't really pick it up as absinthe, but I do pick up this kind of like a fresh alcoholic kind of thing. It might be the initial alcoholic evaporation from the fragrance itself, but I do get that kind of a fresh, uplifting, kind of like vodka note, which works well in like summer cocktails. And the beautiful opening is basically the main event of this scent. And this scent doesn't really have a mid or a dry down. It just sort of fades off from the opening. And the dry down is basically notes that sort of stick around, but they still kind of push the opening for a really long time. So the base notes for this is basically ambroxan, you get musk, you get sea notes, you get some saltiness, but it's very mild. If you're expecting a lot of brininess, a lot of fishiness, as in something like Megamare, this is definitely not that. The sea notes, the salty notes, are much more in line of the Boyce 1920 Oltremare, but way toned down. So it's a very natural kind of like a salt in the air kind of feeling. Very understated, you have to almost look for it. I would say that this is a marine scent, but not really. It's a very toned down marine scent. I think that the marineness in this is mostly in the name, and the idea that you're like smelling these citruses and these florals next to the sea. There's nothing really fishy or off-putting about this. And that transition in between the opening and ultimately the disappearance of the fragrance and the dry down is pretty long. This fragrance has awesome longevity. I would say 8 hours plus. I spray usually, I would say 5 sprays of this, and it's plenty, let me tell you. And again, the transition is throughout the wear. So you keep getting the florals, the hints of citruses, all the way down. And in the end, obviously, they sort of fade away, but you still get this like post-beach vibe that's really great, really uplifting. It's just very sunny and beautiful. This is definitely more of a day scent. It's definitely a scent that you want to wear with the sun out, with the heat. And the heat actually really helps develop the notes in this. They really aid to that explosion of like florals and fruitiness. This fragrance does not appear to have any additional sweetness added, so there's no like amber or vanilla to like reinforce the body of the fragrance, because again, it has really no mid. It's basically the top notes that just stick around forever. I think that this is a mass appealing fragrance with a sweetness that is very natural and non-offensive, very fresh, very uplifting, very bright. This is casual or dressed up. Dressed up relatively, I mean, still day dressed up, but you could wear this to like a day wedding or something like that. Absolutely, it's beautiful. Office, absolutely. Casual, in the gym, wherever. This is very, very versatile. Any age could wear this. Maybe if you're a lot more mature, you probably want to transition to something a little bit drier, because I wouldn't necessarily say that this is dry. This is very, very citrusy, very like uplifting and tart. It doesn't have that old school sort of mature vibe that something like a vetiver can give you. But overall, versatility incredibly high. Unisex, yes, absolutely. Men and women can both pull this off. And don't get me wrong, and actually you must know that from my reviews of Megamare, I really like the weird, salty, briny fragrances. And I'll be reviewing actually Acqua di Sale by Profumum Roma soon. That's a masterpiece that I really love. But you know what? When I don't want to really think about my fragrance, I don't want to think about how my fragrance is perceived, something like this is a perfect bet. It's safe, it's upscale, it's niche, it's really high quality, and it smells different from a lot of other things. I'm definitely going to give a deeper look to the other fragrances from the Sea line by Lorenzo Pazzaglia. I'm interested in Arctic Sea and Black Sea. The Vanilla Sea and the other one that I can't remember, not so much. But Black Sea should be a little bit more briny, a little darker. And Arctic Sea is actually the one that I'm most interested in, because it's a fresh, kind of a minty, glacial take on sea. I've watched an interview with Lorenzo Pazzaglia. He seems like a fun guy, really down to earth, really humble. He says that he puts together fragrances in a very intuitive way, and I respect that. I really don't like perfumers that are just full of themselves and they put themselves on this pedestal. I mean, perfumery, it is what it is. We're not saving lives here. So it's nice to be humble. You're making art, yes, but you're not winning any Nobel Prizes or anything. So let's just keep it low key. And perfumers that are like that, like Francesca Bianchi, like Alessandro Gualtieri, like Lorenzo Pazzaglia, I really like, and I can really endorse their products. Price-wise, I think that these are also really well priced. In Europe, well, Lorenzo Pazzaglia is from Italy. You can get these 50 mLs for about 150, 145-ish. I'm not really sure how much they retail for in the US, given that you have to import them, but I still think that they're really well priced and a great alternative to your usual designer fragrances, which oftentimes run even more. So if you're bored of your usual Acqua di Gio, Profum, or whatever that is, you should definitely check out Lorenzo Pazzaglia and his Sea line. That's a great banger for the summer. He also has other ones which are like Summer Hammer, which is like a tropical kind of cocktail coconut pineapple thing. and tons of other fragrances which are really unique and really interesting. I'm going to definitely be getting more of these. I like the guy, I like the perfumes, and I think it's pretty unique. If you like this type of content, if you like my video approach, feel free to subscribe. It always helps the channel and it's massively appreciated. If you want to interact with me, you can leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always respond and I always keep the conversation open. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Another review down, many more to come as usual. See you next time. Cheers.